I don't know, 50 people in here will be hearing you. So my name is Jesse Howe. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director for the City of Burlington. I'll be the project manager for this one. So if you have questions or issues with the project, either myself or another representative from the city, most likely me, you'll be talking to throughout this project. Tim Wallace is our project manager from the designer, McClure Engineering. Tim, you can kind of see him up there. He'll be doing a little bit of the talking through this presentation. And as I did mention before, we are going to be recording. So if you have questions, please just hold them to the end. We're not going to acknowledge questions throughout the presentation. A lot of these things, we'll probably hit on if you're asking who's going to pick up my trash or something like that. We'll get to it. So we're going to try to hit the most frequently asked questions for these roadway reconstruction projects. We've done a few in the last 4 or 5 years here, so we got a pretty good feeling of what the issues are going to be for everybody out there. I did mention this before. If you have a question, write it on that chat card and we'll go around and collect them and answer those at the end. If you are online and you have questions, go ahead and just type your questions in the chat and we'll answer those at the end as well. We are, again, recording, and we will post this on the website just for the folks that maybe couldn't make it here tonight in person. So, and then if you have questions you don't want us to answer here, shoot me an email. My information will be on these slides throughout. So getting right into the project overview. Starting on the top left here, we have some trail reconstruction work on Mason Road. I'll use my pointer up here, and we have a protected street crossing. We don't have any of those in town anywhere right now, so this will be the first of its kind in Burlington. You may have seen them in other spots, but essentially what you have, and Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe, is it 6 foot wide there? Yeah. 6 foot wide raised median in the middle of the road, and the road is going to widen out there. That's so if you have smaller kids or something that need to cross the road there, they're still going to look both ways, but they only have to navigate traffic coming one direction at a time. That's really what they're designed for. They have a protected area within there. What's not really well pictured on this is there will be like flashing beacons that they can hit where it does flash for the oncoming traffic in each direction. So the idea is that everybody yields there. If they're my kids, I'm saying wait till they come to a stop before you step out into traffic. So we have one of those up here, and we have another one down just north of the Armory. So that trail will then continue on to Hedge, and then the roadway reconstruction starts just where we left off with the Harrison project and goes all the way south of Kestner. So that's the roadway reconstruction. One of the bigger obstacles with this project is right now, most of you well know, we have ditches on both sides of the street. We are going to, in every instance we can, be installing storm sewer and curb and gutter throughout this roadway reconstruction area, and we will be widening the road to 28 feet. In order to mitigate negative impacts of all that additional storm runoff, we are installing a detention basin on the south end of the project here where my pointer is. That's one of the first things we'll be doing. We'll get to a real detailed breakdown of all the phasing here in just a little bit, but this is the broad overview of the project. One of the things that we did not include in this project, but we are pursuing right away and trying to finalize the kind of path for, is a future trail extension that that comes off of this Mason Road that runs all the way up and down the corridor. We're planning on crossing the road and then eventually getting this trail over to Dancourt and Crapo Park, between Bethany Lutheran Church and the old Parkside Brewery location. So that's a future project. It won't be happening with this one, but with any luck, it should be shortly on the heels of this project. So that's it for this one, Tim. The budget summary for this project. We are fairly close to our budget, and you know, $100,000 seems like quite a bit, but in the grand scheme of things where we're at right now, bidding wise, we've been getting great bids lately. We're hoping to be within our budget when bids finally do come in. You just got a sense for the cost here. This is really a pretty big project in the grand scheme of what we do with our roadway funds. We have several grants on this one. We have some community project funding, as well as well, just federal funding from community block, or why can't I think of the acronym? STBG grant. I can't think of the acronym at this point, but we have about $5 million in grant funding here. So a lot of 5 to 6 million by the time you factor in some of the utility contributions and things of that nature. So there is a fair amount of utility work, which we will get into here as well. As far as schedule, you can see where we're at here. Our design is all but complete now. There typically will be some deviation through construction, but we're pretty comfortable with where we're at. We have to submit these to the DOT later in May here in order to get on the list for an August letting. Once we award that project in August, there's usually about a month-long contracting window where the DOT contracts folks, get a contract in place with our contractor, and sometime in September, work will start. And we'll go into where we expect that to start. All of this, I'll say, with a caveat, you know, the contractors get in, and no matter how much we think about these things, they will find a different way to do it. A lot of times we try to stick to the way we have it planned out, and hopefully it works that way this time. But if they have an idea that might work better and get things done quicker, we will entertain those from time to time. So the one thing in all of this, and we'll go through the phasing again, like I said, but the one thing in all of this that will remain the same is those Mason Road, that trail extension. We want to do that when school's not going this next coming year. So in May 2026, that's when we're going to start the work on Mason Road and try to get all the work adjacent to Mason Road done before school starts back up in the fall. Next one. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Tim to talk about some of the utility work and other things we have going on.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. How's volume? Is it okay on your end? Is volume okay over there?
All right, say something now, Tim.
Can you hear me now?
We good, or still lower? A little lower. Okay. I got you booming in, Tim.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Jesse. As he had mentioned, my name is Tim Wallace. I'm the project manager with McClure. We were the design consultant for this project. And before we dive into the phasing of the construction, the first thing I think is prudent to mention is the utility relocations that are going to take place prior to that. Just the general nature of the project, a lot of underground work going on with the storm sewer, water main, some sanitary work, and the amount of utilities present, as you can see in that graphic in the bottom left there. Those are each a call out for a conflict that we've noted Just, a lot of utilities that we're battling. So the intention is that they would relocate their utilities prior to the start of construction. And with that, I'll touch on a few. Alliant Energy currently has some poles along the east side of Summer Street. I think from Kestner all the way up to Harrison. The intent is that they are looking to go underground where they can. I know they're going to attach to some ITC poles on the west side, but for the most part, they will be relocating underground along Summer Street, and then they will also be relocating underground along Mason Road for the trail construction. Gas is also, I think, currently on the east side. They will be relocating to the west side of Summer Street as well. And then a bunch of cable fiber out there. They're going to aim to be adjusted prior to construction, but there might need to be some that takes place during construction. And we'll dive into the phasing piece. We'll start with Summer Street, and then we'll touch on Mason Road, and then finish it up with Hedge Ave. So this is pretty, as Jesse mentioned, pretty large project. We've split this into about as many stages as we care to admit here. But really what we're looking to do is provide some guidance to the contractor from what we see from the design perspective, while also keeping in mind access for you guys, the residents, property owners, business owners along the project. So that's what we try to work with when we establish these staging plans, these phasing plans. So before Summer Street construction begins, we will have a through traffic detour. I'll show a graphic on the next slide here, but it will be in place for the entirety of the phase, of the Summer Street phase. And traffic will be, I'm going to go to the next slide, will be directed to use Madison Ave from Summer Street and then up to Harrison, to really work around or to navigate around construction. Granted, the overall work areas might shift throughout the project, but keeping the one detour in place, really the intent is to try to keep the heavy trucks off of those local roads. So trying to establish that detour to remain throughout construction is important. And as Jesse said, I mean, this is what we see from the design side of what, how we see the project getting constructed. Contractor might have other ideas, and always willing to entertain those. But we'll also have to keep in mind that, access is important, and something that the city will keep in mind during construction. Here, first stage, which hoping to kick off in September of this year, is the detention basin, way at the south end of the property or project, extension of Sioux Street and Navajo Street, west side of Summer Street there. There will be a new trunk line, a storm sewer trunk, that extends from that detention basin and then east to the west side of Summer Street with this stage. And then we will also be having the contractor install the water main, the new water main along the west side of Summer Street. Any of the connections that will happen at later stages, just with trying to keep existing service in place during the winter months. So that'll be following, but this is what you can expect come fall this year. And then shifting gears to stage 2, this is where some of the pavement work is going to get kicked off. So Summer Street is going to be reconstructed from Kestner Street north to the driveways between the Faith Christian Outreach Center and the Southeast Iowa Regional Board of Realtors. Right past those driveways there is the intent. Kestner, Sioux, and Navajo Street will be closed during this stage. The project entails some minor sanitary work, mainly just getting out of the way of the trail, and and with the new curb radii for the intersections. Storm sewer will then be installed, as well as the water main connections to the existing side streets and to the property owners that connect onto the water main in this stretch. So kind of order operations, typically the sanitary work goes first because that's the deepest. And then they'll work their way up. Next will most likely be the water main connections. And then following that will be the storm sewer. And that's kind of the way that things will pan out the rest of the phases too. But just keep that in mind. They're going to work the deepest and kind of work their way up. And then once the utilities are all installed, Summer Street will have a rock base put down, and then they'll work to pave it. Then once the pavement is down for Summer Street, that's when they'll go to the driveways and the trail pieces. So a couple of things to point out as far as access goes. The animal clinic, they have a driveway to the south here. There are two properties during this stage on the west side of Summer Street. We'll look to have the contractor provide a kind of a gap in paving at Sioux Street, and then install a temporary granular or a gravel access for the two properties on the west here. So again, really trying to keep access open to the residents' businesses along the project. And working our way north, stage 3, we'll start where it ended previously in the previous stage and go all the way up to Hillary Ave, right where that east-west trunk line stopped from stage 1. Parkway Drive this time will be closed. Access will be closed during construction here. And there is no sanitary work on this stage. However, there's a bunch of storm sewer, and then there will be the water main connection to the side street and then also to the properties for the services. Property access, 2801 will access from the south end. So the property here will look to access from the south side here. And then this property will look to access from the north end, most likely extension of Hillary Ave there. And further working our way north here, stage 4, the construction will, the limits will extend from Hillary Ave at the south end to right between the two driveways to the airport. The intent is that the airport would use this to maintain access through this stage and the following stage of construction. So the work that will take place during this is some minor sanitary work, a bunch of storm sewer, and the water main connections to the side streets, as well as the services to the properties. And then access, there's one resident right off of Linwood that again would be looking to have the contractor gap their pavement or their paving operation here, so they can have access with a temporary gravel piece off of Linwood there. Stage 5, starting where we left off at the airport and working our way north to right between the two driveways to the fire station. Air lane access here will be closed during this stage. And the work that will go on during this stage is storm sewer and water main installation here. Property access, fire station will be using their north entrance exclusively. And then there's one resident here that we'd be looking for them to access off of Summer Street, the existing Summer Street to the north there. In stage 6 and 7 kind of flip-flop from the order of operation that we've been kind of going down, but this is we're going to be skipping about 400 feet of Summer Street here and shifting all the way to the north end. So the idea is, when you install sanitary pipe and storm pipe, Really, the rule of thumb is you want to work from the downstream most end and work your way upstream. So hence the shift here. But they'll be looking to reconstruct from the north end to about 300 feet or so south of the Dunham-Windsor Circle intersection. Keep in mind that Dunham and Windsor, as well as Hedge Ave, access to Summer Street will be closed during this stage. The work that will go on here is sanitary work, a new sanitary main down the center of the street. It'll also include new sanitary services for those that connect to the sanitary along this stretch. New storm sewer, and then the new water main and service connections here as well. As far as property access goes, the intent is that those that live along this stretch would utilize the alleys and side streets, as well as the pieces of pavement that are currently in place to access properties during this stage. And then last but not least, the remaining about 400-foot stretch or so of Summer Street, kind of connected the last two dots here. It will include the reconstruction of the fire station, parking lot and access, as well as the sanitary work and storm and the water connections there. And then as far as property access goes, we'd be looking for you to utilize the pavement that was installed in the previous stages at the north end and the south end, to use that to access your property. So that took care of Summer Street, and we'll shift gears to Mason Road, the trail construction. So the work in this stage will include a new trail on the south side of Mason Road. The protected crossing, as Jesse mentioned previously, we're going to be widening Mason Road here to install that protected crossing there. There could potentially be a detour installed here for through traffic. For those that live along Mason, you'll still be able to navigate through here via potentially a lane closure, whether it be a temporary traffic signals or something of that sort. But if there is a detour that gets installed, the intent is just really to help lower the volume of traffic along here to make it easier to navigate through this piece of construction. So first thing that the contractor will work on is the intersection upgrades at Mason and Haskell. So in order to keep this open, they will be doing half at a time. So when they work on the north side, you'll have one lane of traffic. You'll have to alternate along Mason Road here. And then same thing goes when they go to construct the south half. You'll have the north half that was previously constructed. You'll have that to use as a access through Mason Road there. And Jesse touched on the timing of this. This is planned for, again, outside of school time. So May of 2026 to the fall of next year. And then those that live on Haskell Street, this will be split into a further substage where they will be doing half at a time, so that those that do live on Haskell can get in and out through this stage. Next piece is the trail and driveways. So there will be a trail constructed all the way from where it currently dead ends on the north side of Mason across to the south side, and it will be constructed all the way to the Page Street cul-de-sac, Hedge Ave cul-de-sac. During this, as far as property access, we'll be looking to maintain kind of a temporary parking lane along the south side there. There'll be a temporary pavement marking that gets installed, pushed a little further north of where it is today. to keep 2 lanes of traffic open during this stage. It'll be separated with like traffic cones to help delineate that from the traveling traffic. And then the last piece we have here is Hedge Ave. So it will be a asphalt overlay to get a nicer riding surface for traffic and bicyclists. So this will be, I think it is actually today a bike route. It'll maintain a bike route. So just giving a better service for bicyclists and road users. Can't really tell super easy, but there's also going to be some drainage improvements installed along here just to help drain this section of the roadway. So for access during this stage, looking for residents to utilize the side streets and the alleyways. The good news with asphalt, doesn't have a whole lot of downtime. So street downtime should be pretty minimal during this phase. And that's the project in a nutshell. Hopefully I hit on all the pieces, but yeah, if you have questions, we can look to answer them at the end here. Shifting gears to just some of the expectations, what you can expect. When they go to reconstruct it, the roadway will be completely removed and inaccessible while it is gone. Sidewalk access will be restricted for each phase. I know away at the southern 2/3, there isn't one there today, but for those on the north third or so, just be aware that access will be restricted as they go to either tear it out or make those service connections, stuff like that. And then there is going to be new storm sewer, as I had mentioned, looking to get rid of the ditches where we can to create more of an urban section with the curb and gutters and the intakes. So this is what you can expect being installed throughout the project. And with construction brings noise, right? There is a noise ordinance with the city of Burlington, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or not permitted outside of the 7 to 10 p.m. there. Just be aware that work could begin before that, but it is not anticipated to be high level noise. The only noise that you could potentially see outside of that is some saw cutting with the PCC concrete. Timing of the saw cutting is really crucial to the life of the pavement. So sometimes they might be out there saw cutting, in the middle of the night. So just keep that in mind and please bear with them as they progress. And then water and sewer service. I know I kind of mentioned that a little bit with the stages, but with the water main being replaced the entire length of Summer Street, those that do connect to that existing service or that existing water main will get new services, copper lines, and just some notices that we'll have in the plans that the contractor will abide by is, any shutdown or supply interruption, you can expect a 48-hour notice for those. And then for all transfers from your old service to your new service line, you can expect a 24-hour notice for those. You could expect when they do this service transfer, I mean, they're going to have to shut water down for some period of time, but you can expect no longer than 12 hours of disruption. And there may be some instances where you might have some short-term pressure loss. Nothing to be alarmed of. It's just part of the process. But keep in mind that any service that you don't have during the day will be reinstated before the end of the workday. And then the sanitary, with it being fully replaced from the fire station north to Hedge, you should not anticipate any impacts to the service. Thankfully, right? Sanitary, you don't want to deal with service interruptions there. the contractor will be utilizing pipes where necessary to keep your guys' service active. And Jesse, I think this is you.
All right. Thanks, Tim, for all that. Taking over here, what to expect from an accessibility standpoint. You know, Tim had mentioned there in a couple of those that the sidewalk, in a lot of these instances when we're constructing the roadway, we're going to be improving sidewalk in a lot of cases too. So if you have issues where walking through the grass or the right of way there is going to be an issue for you, please let us know and we'll work to accommodate you from a ADA accessibility standpoint. In almost all the cases, you will have access to your driveway, but in those latter phases of the Summer Street reconstruction, there is going to be a couple of periods where people are going to have to park on the pavement and walk to their house just because we don't have alleys there or really any way to break that work up where you can get to the front of your house or your alley. And like I said, if you do have accessibility concerns, go ahead. My email's on here, or give me a call at Burlington Public Works office. The driveways along Hedge, as Tim mentioned again, you'll use the alleys and side streets to access your residence there. And then along Mason Road, we're separating it into that 3-lane configuration where there'll be parking on the house side and a lane in each direction. The lanes are going to be, you know, quite a bit narrower than they are today, but it is possible. We'll ask everybody to try to control their speed through there because it will be a little more challenging to speed with the narrow lanes. I see some people shaking their head, but we'll get through it. Next slide. Okay, project notifications. I think Tim was Nick had been mentioning to a few folks in here that you can sign up to receive project notifications. We try to get phasing shift updates out through this service. We also post it on Facebook. Those are really the best 2 levers we have to try to get news out on these things. Occasionally our news releases make it to the radio, but we can't always rely on that. So if you want notifications on when phasing changes will happen, either go to this website or on the sign-in sheet, you can opt in for the notification service as well. If you do want to go up and sign up yourself, there is a way to do it through our website. It is kind of hard to find, but if you're having trouble with that, we can help you with that as well. Next one. Right-of-way conflicts. So the right-of-way is typically from your property line out to the street. If there are plantings, shrubs, those types of things, we usually never get permitting from that. And if you do have stuff in the right-of-way, whether it's bricks, landscaping stone, that type of things, it'll be removed with this project. We'll put mailboxes and that type of thing back, but any of the landscaping stuff that's in the right-of-way, unless it's really close to your property line, is probably going to be damaged throughout this project. So if you want to salvage that, be thinking about that between now and next spring, because unfortunately this construction is pretty hard on those types of things. The driveways on this entire project, essentially, if we're reconstructing the road in front of your house, I can't think of any exceptions. You're getting a new driveway back to your property line. In essentially almost all cases, it goes back at the same width that it is now, but you'll have a new concrete driveway at the end of the project. So in some cases, we had to go beyond the right or your property line, but those are pretty rare. And if there were situations that necessitated that, we've likely approached you and done some easement work by now. So Conflicts with sidewalk. Again, a lot of the places, or a handful of places, do not have sidewalks, but we are installing the trail on Summer Street on the west side from the airport to Hedge Avenue. The existing sidewalk on the east side of Summer Street from Airline Road to Dunham will also be replaced. The remaining sidewalk on the east side from Dunham to Harrison will remain in place, except at intersections, and then occasionally where we're replacing your sanitary lines, water services, we have to take a sidewalk panel out, and those will be replaced as well. Mason Road, we've shown that trail a number of times here. The trail will replace the sidewalk in that location. And then the sidewalk will be extended on Winchester Drive on the south side of Mason Road as well. Hedge Avenue, we really don't have any impacts. The pedestrians that are walking or using the trail will be walking on the sidewalk. Bicycles will be in the road. Next slide. Garbage and mail service. These two are always a constant battle during construction, but we'll do our best to coordinate everything. What we're going to ask everybody to do is take your garbage can, out to the end of your driveway, on the property side of the sidewalk, leave it there, and on the days where trash is collected, our contractors will grab your can, take it to a central collection point, where the solid waste folks will gather that, get everything done. When they're empty, the contractor will put it back in front of your driveway or at the same place they found it at the end of the day. Mail service, when we have construction on each phase, there'll be a mail bank, which is just essentially a row of mailboxes. Your property number will be on each one. All of those will be relocated to a central point, and we'll send mailers out letting you know where that mail collection point is before we start each phase. Grass disturbance. I always like to tell everybody it's not going to come back to a full stand of grass the first year, no matter what we do to it, outside of putting sod down. We'll be hydro seeding in these areas. If you want to look up along Agency or Madison where we've done road work in the last couple of years, the first year it's always a little rough coming up, but within the second year you usually can't tell the difference between your lawn and what we put down. For best results on this, especially if we're doing it in the summer, try to get out there and water your lawn or water these areas. The summer drought is really tough on any seeding, and if it doesn't come in a lot of instances, we will go back and touch it up again. But if you're wanting a good strand of grass and wanting it to look good, maybe even within that first year, we encourage everybody to water it. And then once that grass is 3 or 4 inches tall, go ahead and mow it and keep it mowed to keep the weeds from coming up through, because when it's all clean there, it'll come up, but weeds will come up if you don't mow it as well. So that is all we had prepared for you. I don't see any questions in the chat currently, but if we do have questions, now's when we'll open them up. And I see a couple. Nick, you want to grab comment cards? And
You want me to read them, or are you going to read them?
I'm going to try to read them just so we're... Good. Now give me a second here. First question here is, will the bike path be made of concrete or asphalt along Mason Road? So along the roadway, the entire length, the new trail will be a 6-inch thick concrete trail. The width varies from 8 to 10 feet. The only portion that'll be asphalt, like we were talking, is on Hedge, where they'll be utilizing the street. We just don't have the right of way there to give them a dedicated trail through that area. The second question, which, we talked about addressing this up top because we knew we'd have this question. Who is responsible for the maintenance of the path once it's completed? So we are working with our Parks Department to try to take a lot of that ownership. What we are telling everybody now is that you're responsible. If you have a sidewalk there, it's the same maintenance and snow clearing. You're responsible for clearing a 4-foot width, and then, this trail, most of them when they're concrete and they're 6 inches like this, they're going to last for 50 or so years. So the point where we're going to have maintenance is quite a ways out, but when that time comes, the maintenance of the trail, the adjacent homeowner would be responsible for, again, 4 foot of the width. So, and like I said, we're working through some city council action that may change some of that for the better, but that's where we're at now.
How do you take care of 4 foot out of 8 foot?
You meant a 4-foot section in front of your house, not how wide it is, right?
But let's say that sidewalk breaks or gets misaligned.
If the sidewalk gets misaligned from a maintenance standpoint, you're saying?
Yeah, so if you have to take a section out, it's 8 foot wide.
That is more than likely going to be a city thing, wouldn't you say, Nick? That's something that we're going to pay more attention to. It is a public way, just like any sidewalk, but maintaining these trail networks so we have a network throughout town is going to be a priority for us. As long as it meets ADA accessibility requirements, which is a 1/4 inch, fault in that concrete, that's when we would probably look to move in and do something on it. But in general, compared to a 3 or 4 inch thick sidewalk, in a lot of instances is what you're dealing with, you're not going to see as much a need for maintenance on a 6-inch trail as you will on your regular sidewalk through town. And then how wide will the trail be? I think I addressed that. It's starting at Mason, and maybe Tim, if you can back up to that initial image with the project overview.
Say that we're going to push the snow on the remaining portion of the
Oh,
trail,
yeah.
so it doesn't just sit there.
Good call, Nick. So after you do the 4 foot wide of snow removal, city staff will be following up and clearing the rest of it at some point. But with roadway obligations and everything else, we can't guarantee how quick we're going to be out there to address it. So, so where I was at, the width on these trails will be 8 foot wide all along Mason down to the Page cul-de-sac. We'll be on the roadway there on Hedge, and then we'll continue at 8 foot wide all the way down to this protected crossing. Once we get past, what's that? The trail or the sidewalk? The trail is on the west side here until you get down to this protected crossing. Then it crosses to the east side. So right at the armory, essentially, it hops over to the east side. And we continue down to Kessner at 10 foot wide. The future trail, and again, this isn't in this project, but the future trail is also planned for 10 foot wide.
How many feet wide?
10. So my next question here is The grants, well, let me read it before I. Okay, the grants you already have. Do you have all the money to completely finish the project? With the combination of our current grant funds, utility monies, and roadway infrastructure, we do have the money to finish this project. And then the next question here is, where is the retention pond from the airport going? Are we upgrading the pumping station for water issues? So this detention basin is essentially outletting in the same location as all that stormwater that comes into that field now goes. It runs along the airport fence and then kind of crosses Hartman Road down to the south. Shouldn't really impact many residents there. The pumping station is a sanitary lift station. I believe that's what we're referring to there. It will not be impacted with this project, but what we are doing with our storm upgrades, behind a number of the houses here, there is a field tile, for lack of a better term. It's an underground drain that's supposed to drain the backyards there. We're providing, I guess, more access along the roadway to maybe improve those systems at some point in the future. We don't have money allocated for that yet, but it's something that we put there in the event we do something in the future. And then next question I have here is, when garbage cans are relocated to a central area, will the trash cans be labeled so that crews know where to return them? And yes, they are. There's barcodes on those. A lot of times the construction guys don't mess with the barcodes, but what they will do is put your address on each one so that they know the correct can, the correct size goes back to the home it came from. And that's,
I think there's some questions in the chat too.
oh, we got questions in the chat. So, okay. Will parking on the street be reinstated on Summer Street after the project? That is likely referring to the area between the fire station and Harrison Avenue. And unfortunately, no, it will not. We're going to a uniform 28-foot wide, essentially throughout our whole corridor here. The kind of rationale and reasoning for doing that is we already have very tight right-of-way, a lot of those utility maps that we showed, and then putting the trail in there, you know, it just makes all of that a little bit easier, going from 31 feet down to 28. When all is said and done, how much of my yard will I be losing west side of Summer near Harrison? Shouldn't be losing any yard there unless you're counting, you know, depends how close you are to Harrison, but unless you're counting sidewalk going to trail width, you wouldn't be losing any yard there. And then, yes, so the same question about the parking, you would be losing that parking from the fire station to Harrison Ave, yes, on street. Any other questions either here or in chat? I mean,
I have a question. On
Go ahead.
Hedge, when you're putting the trail down Hedge,
mm-hmm,
which side, because Hedge isn't a very big street.
mm-hmm.
So how much is going to be street and how much is going to be trail, and how much are you, property owners going to lose of the property? And I'm talking down, say, the edge of Greenbrier
Mm-hmm.
to the front of the people that live on Hedge.
Okay, so the question.
Which side of the street is the trail going to be on?
Okay. And I'm just going to repeat it for everybody online. The question here for everybody online and Tim is that on Hedge for that trail portion, where is it going to be on Hedge? How much of the roadway will be impacted, and how much property will be people be losing on Hedge? Did I get it?
Right.
Okay.
And plus, that street that's on Hedge,
Mhm.
not as a complaint, but it crumbles.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I mean, from what they did last year,
Mhm.
when they resurfaced it, it is still starting, it's crumbling on one edge.
Yep. So, okay. And just got some feedback that the Hedge Street is crumbling on the edge. A lot of that is from essentially water damage on the base of the road. One of the things Tim did mention there, and I don't know if you can go to that phase maybe, Tim, so we can zoom in on things, but
Yep.
we are doing some storm sewer upgrades through there to try to eliminate. There are places where water kind of ponds through that location. So you can see, and maybe Tim, you can highlight those places where we're doing the storm. It's very hard to see because we were really just talking through phasing on this, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
we're aiming to add some storm intakes or area intakes at some of the low points that we've identified during design. So we'll be looking at one here, here, each side of this street here, and then here as well. And then, yeah, just adding those area intakes will just help to drain the site better and really help to preserve just the base that Jesse had mentioned.
Okay. And then, so the trail is actually on the road for bicyclists. The pedestrians will use sidewalks either on Harrison or adjacent to Hedge for walkers, if that makes sense. We're not expanding the width of the road.
There is no separated trail on Edge.
There's no.
All the
separate-
same grade.
Yep.
Okay.
It's-
Will it be more of a permanent street then?
Asphalt.
in my
Correct.
understanding?
It's right now it's seal coat, which is, for lack of a better, it is cheap, but it's more of a temporary surface than an asphalt road would be. So typically you get 5 to 10 years if it's really well drained, but 5 to 10 years out of a seal coat surface and maybe 20 to 30 out of an asphalt surface. So it'll hold up a lot better for a lot longer along Hedge there. Did that answer everything for you?
I
Okay,
I have a question,
go ahead.
and I'd like witnesses. I was assured by the acquisition agent that I would have access to my property
Mhm.
in stages because I run on the corner of Hedge in summer. I
Okay,
have a driveway and a garage on Hedge and a driveway on Summer, that I would not be landlocked.
okay,
He assured me that I would have access to my property.
And
He
you're-
also assured me that I would have 2 trees left in my front yard.
Mhm.
It's right by the fence, and I was not reimbursed by the city for them. And
Okay.
they're plainly marked on the plans to be saved.
okay,
And so I want to make sure that they are, which is why I'm not leaving town until this is all settled.
all right,
And I'd like to know too, when I should have my fence removed and stored, because I don't want to wait till the middle of the winter when it's going to be hard to move.
gotcha. And we might be better off talking to you afterwards, but I'll try to get to all of that here.
Well,
Which-
there's different things than the acquisition agent said, so
Which side of
I'm
the
right on the corner of Hedge and Summer on the west corner.
southwest?
So I've already sold 10 feet of my property and given you a 10-foot easement. So you're definitely going to impact me. And I don't want to have to park 2 blocks away and carry groceries.
Are you on the northwest or
I'm
southwest?
on the southwest corner.
Right where the mouse is. So yeah, you'll have access off of Hedge through the whole
I
time.
don't have an alley,
You have
and
a,
I can't get to my garage without using part of Hedge.
well, Hedge won't happen when the summer reconstruction is happening. Hedge won't be happening concurrently. So you'll either have access throughout the summer reconstruction and getting back into that area. You know, Hedge really won't close for the asphalt overlay problem. It won't close at the same time, and really for asphalt overlays, it doesn't ever close.
I thought you said it was gonna be concrete.
Hedge itself, so if you're looking at this, can you see where my pointer is? This area here is asphalt. It turns to concrete right where this lighter gray is. So if this is where we're talking about accessing.
So when should I have my fence moved?
Tim, having fence moved, I think that for that fence, they're probably protecting it through there, but let's coordinate a little bit. I remember talking to you.
And they're gonna be tearing it out
Okay.
if I don't move it. And I wanna make sure my trees, my 2 trees that I did not sell to you guys,
Mm-hmm.
is gonna be safe.
If they're marked on the plan that they'll be
They're
safe,
not gonna plan not to remove them.
they won't be removed then.
You'd better believe it.
I'll plant you a new tree. Plant you a new tree.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Go ahead.
According to your map here, it looks like you're ending the street at the Veterans Clinic there. What happens between the end of that's at the vet's place to the city line?
So Tim, from the vet's office to the city line on the south side of the project, if you could go there. So I believe in that area, it's half us, half the county. I mean, it just goes back to the section that it is now. And then when the county does a project to the south of us, they'll come up to the end of our pavement and we'll get an agreement with them to pay for our share of it.
The city line is beyond
Yeah,
the veterinary clinic there, about 75 yards.
right, something like that.
Well, it's in pretty poor shape right now.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they don't leave it that way when they get the project done.
Yeah, I'll look at that, but I think,
When you drive through there, it's like driving Snake Alley.
well, we don't have any plans to do anything from a roadway improvement outside, maybe potholing in that location.
That
So,
would be nice.
The road below grade.
what's that?
Is the road gonna be below grade?
Yeah, so that's a good catch. The question was, is the road going to be below the existing grade? And in a lot of cases, it will be lower now than it is, or it'll be lower in the future than it is now, just to get everything to drain over the top of curb into the roadway and into the storm system. So
6-inch curb?
6-inch curb,
Beam
yes.
curb or drop curb?
It's just an integral curb that will pour, with the roadway. So it's like what you see through most of town in the newer paved areas.
Hoping not a slope curb.
No, it won't be a slope curb. It'll be a regular 6-inch curb. And like I said, in a lot of cases, we're lower anywhere from a foot to 2 feet, something like that. In the back.
Yeah, how long is it gonna take to get to stage 7?
How long will it take to get to stage 7? It'll feel like longer, but we're hoping to get close to there at the end of the year. It should be in the fall of next year, and it's really in a lot of cases depending on how aggressive our contractor is. But we're hoping to get there at the end of next year.
We got telephone poles sitting there. Are they gonna take them telephone poles out
Yep.
on the west side?
Not the west side. East side they'll come out.
No, mine's on the west side,
What?
right on my driveway.
West side they'll stay in.
But that's where your trail's over there.
On the west side.
And there's also a fire hydrant right there in my yard.
All that stuff will be addressed. We'll get it in there with the trail between that telephone pole and the back curb.
So you're gonna leave the telephone pole there, but the trail's gonna be on the west side of that?
It would, if you're on the
Because
west
right
side,
now
the trail should be on the
telephone pole is
east.
about a foot and a half from the street.
Okay, gotcha. It'll stay where it's at then.
It'll stay where it's at.
And that roadway gets a little more narrow through there.
Well, we're right by the fire station.
Yep,
We're 2 houses from the fire station.
yep,
Right here.
yep. So the roadway will get a little more narrow there, and we will get the trail through it. That hydrant will get relocated because we're relocating, we're putting all new storm or water service in. So there'll be an adjustment on the location of that hydrant. That pole may get relocated, but I think that one stays. Do you recall?
I'd have to look
Yeah,
to be sure, but.
I know we,
You're gonna take the jog out of the street here, sir?
yep,
There is a jog right here.
there is a jog in the street at about that location, and it'll be straightened out through there. Yep.
Yes,
Question?
one thing I do want to add with the pole relocations, when a line goes underground, the service connections to your houses, there will still be a pole to essentially get the underground up the pole and to keep your service line where it is. So I just want to make that clear.
Jesse, question for Tim, since he's talking about Alliance.
Got another
and
question?
service lines. When Alliance there and they're undergrounding, if they leave that pole to run the service line, could a homeowner contract with Alliance to bury their service line at the same time?
So the question to follow on that, Tim, and I'll let you answer it because you're on a roll here.
What would that be if you owned this fence?
With the Alliant installing that pole and running the service back to the house, could homeowners elect to keep it underground if they work out a deal with Alliant to essentially do it at their cost?
Yeah, my understanding is that you can certainly contact them to do that. The cost, I believe, would be put on the property owner to do so.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's something that you're interested in, I'd definitely reach out, and that would be, outside of this project, it'd be on your own, but.
Okay, we got one question back over here.
You said Mason Road was gonna start May of 26.
Correct.
How far east is that gonna go?
The question is, how far east on Mason Road will we be going, Tim? So if you can go to that phase. You can kind of see here, a lot of the work is kind of centered around Haskell Street where we're making that road crossing. It doesn't go beyond that at all. We'll cross the trail right there at Haskell where we're showing it. Just a few feet to the west there of Haskell. We'll be putting some sidewalk in and some trail in on that side, and essentially just tying that trail in there. But as far as roadway reconstruction, it's all isolated to that area, and then the trail goes in on the south side of the road all the way to Page Street. The cul-de-sac on Page. We do have another question in the chat. Will there be any reimbursement to build a driveway since I'm losing my street parking? And yeah, all the driveways, well, the driveway approaches will be replaced, but nothing onto private property. So drive approaches will be replaced to the property line. Back in the back? What's that?
I think you're reading the question wrong.
Oh.
I'm asking if they don't, since they park on the street and they don't have a driveway, will they be reimbursed for getting it?
No. If the question in the back was interpretation of that last question, and it was essentially I was probably reading it wrong here, but is there going to be any allotment for a new driveway since they're losing parking on the street? And the answer to that question is no. Anybody else?
Trail or sidewalk down Summer on the east side, how far off the road is that?
Okay, the question was how far off of the road is the trail generally going to be off the back of the curb? And I think in all instances, it's 6 foot off the back of curb.
It's 4 foot from
Oh,
where that pedestrian refuge island is to, I think it's just the street south of Linwood, the side street.
so.
And then it'll switch to 6 foot off.
Yeah, there's a small section, what he was referring to there, there's a small section here where we're only 4 foot off, but then it goes back up to 6, maybe around Casey's, was it?
Yeah, a little south of
Further
Casey's.
south toward Navajo and Sioux.
Yeah, once we get away from Casey's and some of that stuff, we can't work around
That's
so
right,
well.
You can kind of see it right there, some pillars, kind of jots out there.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, we're dwindling down on questions. Has anybody else got any for me? Or Tim? Get a good one for Tim. All right, well, thanks, everybody. We'll stick around in case anybody's got a question or two they want to ask us in person, but appreciate you coming out tonight and showing interest in the project. Tim, I think we can probably log off here.
Yep, thank you.
Yep, have a good one. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.